Hey guys, Michael here again. Today I'm going to go over the writing section on test 5. This is at the request of one of the kids over the SAT sub at Reddit. This is from Cruz Jordan 75. Cruz Jordan 75 wants to know, how do I figure out a question? How do I answer a question when it's based upon an idiom or vocab word that I don't know? Now, an idiom is a word that is just used just because. The language is that way. There's no particular reason for it or a grammar rule that you can apply from one thing to another. You kind of can, actually, by the way. That's one of my points here today. But I get the question because it's a good one. The answer is, and what I see, Cruz Jordan 75 gets these answers from people, those experts over at the subred, the SAT sub. I see this all the time. Well, you need to read more. And so okay, great. So I'm going to read War and Peace, and I'm going to do better on writing test 5. Okay, that ain't going to happen. So let's be more serious and let's be more applicable in an approach and a strategy that will actually help you through idiomatic and vocab questions, because there are approaches. There's a logic to this test. There's always a logic on the SAT. So let's get to the tablet here, and I'll show you how to do. This is on practice test 5. So here we are in the writing section. This is practice test 5. I'm going to work at question number 2 first. All right, so here we have a word swear. Now, here's the first thing I do is I get rid of it out of the line and I put it over here because I don't want to be fooled into thinking that's the right answer just because I see it in the sentence. Of course, this being the SAT, they mess around with the formatting. There's no reason why they had to separate this across a page, but this is what they do. They're here just to make your life more difficult. So we have to read the sentence fully. So these models have expanded researchers' knowledge of ancient species and something. Always say the word something when you don't know a word. It makes it more comfortable to speak, to advance the field of paleontology in the years to come. Going back to this sentence here, please, guys, pay attention to pronouns. This tells us something. Well, which models? So we have to go back to the prior sentence. With the aid of computed tomography and scanning and 3D printing, researchers have been able to create accurate models. Okay, so an accurate model of prehistoric fossils. So it's like a copy. All right, so what models? The accurate models of prehistoric fossils have expanded researchers' knowledge of ancient species and something to advance the field of paleontology. So it's expanded their knowledge and something to advance the field of paleontology. Now, what I'm looking at here, this verb is going to be, it's got to be consistent with expanding the knowledge. That's the phrase we have here. The models have expanded the knowledge and the models have something to advance the field of paleontology. So we're thinking about they're doing something where they're really giving an ability to is really what's happening. And so because they're using them to advance the field of paleontology. So do you swear? If you don't know the word swear in terms of its multiple meanings, but we do talk about swearing bad words, a model doesn't swear. Just get rid of it. Does a model subscribe? I'm talking about a physical model here, right? No, it does not. It's just a thing. It doesn't subscribe, okay? It's not going to pick up that subscription to Popular Photography magazine. Does a model vow? Now, if you may not know the word vow, you could think about, take your vows like to get married. So it's, and you'll notice on these things, there's usually a synonymous set here that they both mean the same thing. Swear is, I swear an oath. I'm going to swear to God is like taking an oath, which is why we use the word swear as an insult, because it's, in religion, people believe that's an insult to God. So I swear is the same as an oath, which is the same as a vow. If they're both synonymous, then they're both wrong. Okay, so just get that rule down. That's the easy way to eliminate on these idiomatic and vocab questions. If you see two that mean the exact same thing, get rid of it. So we've already eliminated down to promise without even looking at it. Now, what does a model do? Can a model make a promise? No more than it can subscribe to something. But the promise is that it can advance. It is promising. And they're just using this in this form of and promise to advance the field of paleontology. Okay, big idea here is find the things that are synonymous and then delete them. And also think in terms of what the word is doing. So it's the noun here is the models have advanced researchers' knowledge. The models promise to advance the field of paleontology. On to number 5. Okay, here's an interesting one here. We've got down here, in order to learn. I'm not going to retype it up here, but I'm looking at the things in order to learn, in order for learning. So I have 2 for orders, in order to, so that, and then so to learn. So I see learning. Always look for how the possible answers are similar, how they're distinct. So when I see this, I just want to go back to the sentence and I see 2 verb forms. I got in order to learn, the infinitive to learn. So these 2 are kind of the same. These 2 are kind of the same with learning. So let's eliminate between to learn or learning. A team led by blah blah is making models. A team is making models of dinosaur bones, blah blah blah, in the original size to learn. In the original size learning. No, these are wrong. Get rid of it because we can't have that verb for learning. That's not a verb. Actually, it's a gerund. It's acting as a noun. The idea of learning is a thing. So they're doing it to learn. So now I've gotten rid of these two, and I got to say in order to learn and so to learn. Now here, this is slightly idiomatic in the sense that, well, what does the word so mean and what is in order to? And we need to think this through just a little bit. So one thing you can do is to use a sentence of your own making to come up with a way to think through some of these word usages. So I'm going to come up with one right here, top of my head. I exercise in order to lose weight, or I exercise so I can lose weight. Notice if I said I exercise so to lose weight, that doesn't make sense because that so to the infinitive doesn't really work because the word so is you're doing something for a reason. I'm exercising so that I can lose weight. Now, when we have, the exercise, therefore I can lose weight. It's a very, very tight distinction here. But when I think of the difference between I exercise in order to lose weight, I'm exercising. And why am I exercising? To lose weight, and it's an outcome. Like the exercise is the way I get to losing weight. Whereas when I say I exercise so I can lose weight, I'm giving a reason for why I exercise. And so in this case here, a team is making models of dinosaur bones, not to make a reason for them to learn how, but to help them facilitate in order to be a means to an outcome, which is in order to learn. So we go with 5A, in order to learn. I hope that makes sense to you guys here. It's a little bit hard to see, but the key here is eliminate where you can. You don't need to know in order for, so that one is. You don't know, by the way, those are wordy, but you can eliminate based upon the verb form. And then we got a better chance, 50-50 there, that we can kind of isolate the problem that's going on before us. Okay, let's move on to 20. Okay, here we have persecuted on. This is persecuted for, persecuted with, persecuted. Oh, wait a minute. Please don't read letters in words that don't exist. Please don't add letters to words that don't exist. Read the word and all the letters. Persecuted, prosecuted. Now, if that doesn't immediately flash in your mind that these are two different words with completely different meanings, if let's say we're just not really sure about it, so we could be, because I think what's happening here is we're being fooled by the for, with, on. Notice that prosecuted has only an on. So let's work on that one first here. So we go back to our sentence. Eventually, Tweed and his gang were prosecuted on a number of charges, including fraud and larceny. Oh, he was sent to jail, so he was prosecuted. Since prosecute is the only answer that fits being charged with a crime, persecute is not a judicial process. It's to persecute someone is to go after them, usually unfairly, in a bad way. Prosecuted is to engage in the process of a court hearing, a charge, and a hearing and a jury, et cetera, et cetera. So he's prosecuted on. Now, since I have that on, that's the only one I have to go with it. But it's on what? He was prosecuted on a number of charges. But let's see if we can eliminate the between persecuted for, on, and with, because there is a logic here too. If you're persecuted for, that means there's a reason why someone persecuted you. Well, he wasn't being persecuted for a number of charges. Okay, that's nonsensical, so we could eliminate that. If you're being persecuted on, that means that they're persecuting you literally on the following things, and they're not being persecuted on, right, physically on a number of charges. That doesn't work. And to be persecuted with would be to use those, to employ those things. So you're not being physically on them, you're being done with them. So we can eliminate all these because you wouldn't be persecuted with fraud and larceny. You would be charged with those or prosecuted on them. So that's why they're messing around with that with, for, and so on and so forth. Okay, so but this one you should be able to get right away just because of you're reading the letters that are actually there and not adding or missing little ones. That happens all the time. Okay, let's go to number 22. All right, here we go, 22 down here. Tweed escaped from jail and fled to Spain, unwittingly brought about one final something. Let's put pinnacle up here. One final pinnacle, one final triumph, one final culmination. Oh, immediately, culmination is the end of something, and this word final would make that redundant, so let's get rid of that one. Okay, now we got to choose between three here. So brought about one final, okay, could you have a final pinnacle? Pinnacle being the top of something, apex being the top of something. Notice how these are synonymous. Synonymous means get rid of them both. I'm left with triumph, whether I like it or not. If you don't know what a pinnacle is, you don't know what an apex is, then we've got a little bit of a trouble here. I think the logic is just, can we understand that this is a triumph of the political cartoons? Here, a little context is helpful. We could know from the title that he's a crusading cartoonist. So crusading cartoonist would probably triumph, like a superhero. So that's the best I can do here, but I can tell you, if you know what a pinnacle is and know what an apex is, then since they both mean the same thing, the top is something, then we get rid of them both, because triumph has a different meaning, and we got rid of culmination because it doesn't work with the word final. Okay, here we have question 40. So what do we got? Which choice, read this carefully, okay, which choice most effectively suggests that the end of investigative journalism is a real possibility, but one that can be prevented? So it has to be, one, a real possibility, and two, the word has to show that it can be prevented. What do we got here? We've got could. Let's get rid of it here. We're going to put could. Need, will, must. Could, need, will, must. All right, so it has to be both a real possibility and it needs to be something that can be prevented. Okay, so let's read it. While worrisome, the decline of traditional print media, something not entail the end of investigative journalism. So I want to go for the ones that mean it's a real possibility. Must means it has to happen, but one that can be prevented. So must, I want to get rid of must here, because must is suggesting that it should happen, right? And that's not the point here. We want to know that the end of investigative journalism is possible, but it can also be prevented. Will does the same thing. We get rid of those two here, because those are implying that it's the opposite of what we're supposed to do. It's not a possibility, saying it's going to happen, and therefore it can't be prevented. So now between could and need, we look there, we eliminated these two, could and need. So it could means it's a real possibility, but does could suggest that it can be prevented? So it could not entail the end of investigators. It's saying that the decline of print media could not entail. That's telling me that it's not necessarily going to happen. So I want to eliminate could here and talk about need. So the traditional print media need not, in other words, it doesn't have to be. It need not means does not have to be. So we go with B on 40. Hope that helps. The idea here is that there is a logic, just because it's idiomatic, and it kind of is, because there are definitions to these words. So in order to versus so, there is a distinction there. But notice the trick I did there. Well, first of all, I eliminated anything that's synonymous. Get rid of them. They can't, if two possible answers are correct, then they're both wrong. That's a writing passage or writing section trick across the board, and it works very well with these types of vocab words. The other thing is, I take the usage that might be slightly idiomatic to me, and I put it in a sentence of my own. So I saw in order to and so, came up with my own sentence, and then I kind of sort of thrushed out the meaning. So is like it's for a reason, and in order to is making something else happen. So I hope that helps there. Good luck, Cruise Jordan 75. Let me know any other thoughts and questions. Anybody else? Glad to answer them here. See ya.